Hey everyone, my name's Alexandra and I'm a watercolor artist. Today I am taking you guys outside and I'm going to teach you how to paint a pine tree. This tutorial will be good for beginners, or if you've been painting for a little while, I'll show you guys also just how to add a little bit more detail and depth into your painting. Let's get started. Today for supplies, what you guys will need is 2 cups of water. I have one for clean water, one for dirty. I also have 2 different paintbrushes. I have Opus Allegro number 8 and number 2. Ideally, you guys will just want a small paintbrush and sort of a medium-sized paintbrush. Also a napkin for blotting your paintbrush. I'm using Philisophy and Co's Woodland palette today. I'm mostly just going to be using a mix of the greens that are on here, brown, and a little bit of red. So if you guys have green, brown, red, maybe a bit of yellow, those will work. Not too picky, we're just looking for natural tree colors. And for paper, I have 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. So the first thing that we're going to do is take our small paintbrush, and I'm going to get a little bit of green paint and mix it with some brown. So for this first step, you guys can use a pencil or you can use paint for it. I just want to give us a guideline for where we're going to draw our tree. So I'm watering down my paint so that it's not too dark, and starting sort of from the top of my page down the center, I'm going to do a really light and thin line. So you almost can't see it. I just want something to guide where my tree is going to build out from. So once you have that, we're gonna start with our smaller paintbrush again, and we're gonna work from the top down. So I'm mixing in a green color that I want. I'm using deep moss and some of the bare brown. I'm mixing it together just because the deep moss on its own is a little bit too bright, so I want to give it more of a natural color. But for you guys, you can just pick whatever green you want your tree and paint it that way. So one of the main things with watercolor is starting from light to dark. So I'm not starting with my paint too pigmented, I'm starting with it a little bit more watery. And from the very top of my page, I'm actually just gonna do little blotches of paint onto my paper, but I have them working sort of in an upward, like following a V shape as we go. So they're pointing up, but you'll notice it's just very, very loose blotches. I'm being careful to leave white space. And as I work my way down, it's going to get bigger and bigger. Now, one of the things that you'll notice, especially when you're looking around somewhere like this, is all of these trees don't necessarily go in that perfect Christmas tree shape that we're used to. So as I paint this, I'm not necessarily making it into a perfect triangle following that guideline. I'm gonna do some sides with branches that are a little bit bigger, some a little bit smaller, and I'm just adding some gaps in randomly just to make sure that I'm keeping it looking really natural. All right, so what you'll notice as I work my way down is I angle it less up, and I sort of straighten my branches out more and more. So again, with this, you're just doing little blotches of paint, so nothing is too precise. And the idea is that you're working your way in towards the center and kind of just imagining the tree branches. If it helps too, you guys can find a picture of a tree to actually look at and see where it's more full, where it's a little bit more sparse, and follow along with that. The nice thing about this style of painting trees is that you really can just play around with your shapes. Nothing is too detailed here, but already you can see it coming together as I work my way down. Now, often when we look at trees, we don't actually see the trunk fully in the center and everything coming out from the side. There's some parts that cover it. So I can go ahead and in the middle of my page, I had a little too much water on there. I can bring a branch sort of across. Now I'm gonna go wider as I head towards the bottom. Again, being really careful to leave lots of white space in this. All right, so I'm actually gonna switch to my bigger paintbrush right now as I come towards the bottom of my tree to get the bigger branches. And I'm just continuing to follow the exact same concept with not all my branches even on either side. And I'm just gonna thin them out a little bit as I come towards the bottom of my page here. All right, so if you guys are following along, we finished the first main part of our tree. So that is just building our base of branches and leaves. I'm going to show you guys now how to add in the tree trunk, and then we'll go in and add some more details. So I'm gonna go in with my brown paint. And for this tree, I'm gonna add just a little bit of this foxberry sort of reddish color I have into it. And we're gonna start with it nice and watered down, and starting from the top, I'm using my small paintbrush and I'm gonna paint a line down sort of just into the white spaces. So you're not necessarily gonna see it the full way down. Just filling in those spaces. And I'm making it progressively wider as I work my way down, but it's not super dramatic. It just slowly increases. And then as I get to about halfway down, I'll probably keep the size pretty consistent. And it's okay if it mixes a little bit with the green paint. All right, so now that I've come to the bottom of my tree, I'm just gonna go all the way down. We're gonna finish it off there. So I will go in and add more fine details in the tree. Right now, while it's wet, I'm just gonna add a little bit of darker brown to the left side and just give it a little bit of shading. All right, so now we're gonna go back into the branches of our tree and we're gonna add some details. So if you guys are following along, at this point, you could just leave it as it is, or you can continue on and we'll add some more shading, just, to give it more of a realistic look when you're actually out and looking at the trees. So now I'm taking more pigmented paint. I'm mixing again my green and my brown. I have it pretty dark here. And I'm just gonna go in where I've already painted. And with my dark paint, I'm adding, I'm just gonna make it a little bit darker. I'm just adding little splotches on top of where I've already painted. But this time, instead of, bigger blotches, I'm doing tiny little lines sort of in the direction of where I can see my branches are going. So one thing with this is it actually is very helpful to spend some time just looking at some trees and yeah, just studying how they look, how the branches go, depending on what type of tree you're painting. Because this style of painting you can kind of adapt to all of any sort of tree that has, yeah, needles on it. So just doing tiny little lines. And I have, at the top, I started with most of them facing upwards. As I work my way down, I'm gonna start going both ways with them kind of facing in, if you imagine like multiple little V shapes, but nothing is too perfect and even and precise. I have it a little bit random. So right away, you guys can see how it just brings the tree to life immediately as you add these darker colors in. So I'm just mixing some more paint on my palette and I'll just keep going. So often if I do trees very similar to this, but larger scale, I'll actually look at it and paint each individual branch with the pine needles. But when you're doing it either around the size or bigger, but you're just looking for a very loose look, this is a really good way to make it start looking realistic, but without having to go in and paint every single little needle that you can see. So now as I come to the bottom, I am actually going to do a little more detail and I'm going to branch out in different directions a little bit more, so I'm still overlapping my base shapes. But I'm sort of painting in where I can imagine the little branches would be. So with this style of painting, one of my favorite things to paint is misty trees. I live in Canada and in BC, so we have a lot of mountains, and whenever I go, either out hiking or just driving in the mountains, if it's ever kind of rainy or foggy, you get the mist that settles into the trees, and it is my absolute favorite thing to see and to paint. So if this is something that you guys would like to see a tutorial on, then leave a comment below and let me know, because I would love to teach you guys. All right, so now that we've finished that part of the branches, we're gonna go in and add a little bit more detail to the trunk, the tree trunk. So I'm gonna go in again with my brown, but I'm gonna add some of the cavern color that I have here. So it has a little bit of an orangey tone to it. And I'm just gonna mix it with my brown paint that I already had mixed. And then I'm adding a little bit of red in there as well. So for this palette, this is Foxberry. If you guys are looking for a palette to use, especially for this kind of thing, this one is called Woodlands, which is one of the reasons I chose it today, because it just has a lot of the colors that you see around you. So it's a very good fit. So I'm happy with the color that I have. So now I'm gonna go into my tree trunk, and just starting from the top, I'm doing the same thing that I was doing before, but just adding a bit of a darker color. And this time I'm not fully covering what I've already painted, but I'm just adding, so it's a little bit more vibrant in behind the green there. Otherwise it was kind of hard to see before, but I wanted to start with it nice and light so that I can build my way up. So now as I go into the bigger part of the tree trunk where you can see more, I'm just doing little strokes. I can do some lines kind of coming fully down just to give the wood grain effect. And then some patches of color. This is something too that if you guys want some practice painting what wood looks like, let me know and I can do a tutorial on that. Yeah, so right away you see the difference. As soon as I add more color to the tree trunk, everything just stands out more. So the last thing that I'm gonna do with this painting is go into the green and add just some more colors there. The more you paint, it's a lot of fun to just play around with how different colors look mixed together, especially when you're looking in nature often, like with a lot of the trees around here, because some of them are partially dried out or some of them, just depending on the type, you can see some red in them, you can see some yellow in them. So it's fun to add that to your paintings, and I find that it helps draw the eye around what you've painted as well. So with my yellow, I'm going in and it's almost not noticeable, but I'm just adding little spots of it over top of some of the green that's already painted. So what I'm doing here is glazing, and by doing this you see some yellow coming through, and then when I'm going over top of the green, it actually just gives me a little bit more of a brighter sort of lime green. And I'm not doing it everywhere. You'll notice I'm just sort of picking a few spots on each branch to just paint it in. And here, because I'm painting directly on top of what's already there, the shape of how I'm painting it doesn't really matter. I'm just spotting it in. And again, it just continues to help your painting, come alive, essentially. Right, so that is all we have for our pine tree tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did follow along, send me a picture, tag me on Instagram at Alexandra Victoria Studio. I absolutely love to see what you guys are painting. Or if you have any questions, let me know. If you are not already, please make sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and comment below what you'd like to see next. See you next time.